Homage Shakyamuni Buddha. Homage to Manjushri, the wisdom protector. Homage to the lineage gurus. Subtle Dharma, rarely seen in ages. See, hear, uphold it. Grasp the Tathagata. In order to liberate all sentient beings, let us give rise to the unsurpassed and supreme bodhicitta. Study the guidance on the preliminary practices of the great perfection Longchen Nyingtik. The words of my perfect teacher, a comprehensive guide. Before we begin thoroughly studying and carefully examining this guidance text together, we first need to take a moment to discuss and consider the homage verses to lineage masters. In this section, there are verses for the three lineage masters and Vimalamitra. The homage verse to Venerable Jigme Lingpa has been explained. Today we will begin discussing the author, Patrul Rinpoche, his sole root guru, that is the highly respected Venerable Jigme Gyalwe Nyugu, and the homage verse dedicated to him. Avalokiteshvara manifests as the guru, teaching the Dharma to guide beings to liberation, whose acts to benefit beings are boundless. I pay homage before my kind root guru. The unique pith instructions of Patrul Rinpoche's guru actually come from the Venerable Jigme Gyalwe Nyugu. Regarding Venerable Jilaya, in historical records and in the prophecies of some masters, it is said that Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva came to this world in the form of a spiritual friend to guide sentient beings. Therefore, people commonly refer to him as an emanation of Avalokiteshvara. He is mentioned in many ancient Dharma treasures, as well as in various different important sutras and treatises. Any sentient being who forms a positive connection, directly or indirectly, with the Venerable Jigme Gyalwe Nyugu can, in fact, ultimately attain liberation and be reborn in a pure land. This is just like our own precious guru. Some great accomplished masters, indeed within this very lifetime, whether they merely see his image or hear his Vajra words or visualize him, practice his guru yoga and so on, all of these people, relying on his distinct, dependent arising and blessings, are able to be reborn in pure lands and thus ultimately attain spiritual liberation. At the same time, he also appears before different sentient beings in accordance with their individual and diverse capacities, their particular and personal inclinations, as well as their unique and characteristic dispositions. Each person is shaped and influenced by these qualities, manifesting in a wide variety of forms. In this way, his activities to guide and benefit sentient beings are immeasurably vast. It can be said that the disciples of Venerable Jilaya are spread throughout the world. His teachings are widely propagated in all directions, east, south, west, and north. His accomplishments are beyond what words and language can truly describe. Such an extraordinary and truly remarkable root guru who genuinely possesses the three kinds of kindness. Before Venerable Jilaya, the author offers prostrations with respect through the three gates, body, speech, and mind, because right at the very beginning, when Jilaya was 19 years old, he relied on Venerable Jigme Lingpa as his teacher. He received empowerments and essential Dzogchen instructions. Later, he went to a certain place in the Sheik area and stayed there for a while, near the site where Master Toga established a Dharma center. There is a place called Zahamalong, and at Zahamalong, he remained in retreat, practicing continuously for 21 years. Eventually, he truly realized the essence and nature of all awareness. He attained complete realization, fully awakened to Dzogchen, achieving great enlightenment. Throughout history, he has been recognized as a great accomplished master and awakened being. As a result, his direct disciples were as numerous as the stars in the sky, countless and boundless. There were two exceptional disciples. One was Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo, who was like the son. In fact, Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo was recognized by Venerable Jilaya as the reincarnation of his own teacher, Venerable Jigme Lingpa. The other great disciple, who was often likened to the moon for his calm and luminous presence, was Patrul Rinpoche, renowned for his wisdom and gentle compassion. Patrul Rinpoche relied on Venerable Jigme Gyalwe Nyugu as his teacher. All the wisdom in the lineage of Venerable Jilaya was completely integrated into the mind stream of Patrul Rinpoche. Therefore, Patrul Rinpoche's sole root guru was Venerable Jigme Gyalwe Nyugu. Speaking of the renowned Venerable Jilaya in Tibet, compared to Patrul Rinpoche, he may not have been quite as famous. However, indeed, many disciples of later generations, after hearing his name or receiving his teachings, naturally received unique blessings in their own mind streams. And among them, there were those who attained realization, enlightenment, or attaining the Vidyadhara fruit. Such occurrences, notably throughout the long history of Tibetan Buddhism and across the centuries, are absolutely countless. There are truly, truly very many. In his later years, Venerable Jigme Gyalwe Nyugu notably built the well-known Jajia Monastery, located in the region of Shik. Before parinirvana, he gave his fingernail to Patrul Rinpoche. Over there, build a statue that is exactly like me. For me, it is said that this statue still exists, and in fact people have continued to make religious pilgrimages to it. Therefore, the lineage disciples of Jilaya throughout the entire Tibetan region, whether in Lhasa area, Amdo or Qinghai, as well as in the regions of Kham and Sichuan, are all very numerous. Among such disciples, those who attained enlightenment truly renounced all worldly concerns in this life and went to secluded places and attained realization. There have, in fact, been quite a number of such people, truly. Therefore, Dharma friends present here should respectfully, wholeheartedly, and sincerely pray to the revered lineage masters. Important. If you're not very familiar with other prayer texts, the verses of homage at the very beginning here are also indeed quite very good, truly setting a wonderful tone. Many great masters in Tibetan Buddhism, at the start of their teachings, often use these verses of Patrul Rinpoche honoring the lineage masters. Many people also in their daily recitations use these preceding verses in particular to pay homage and respectfully show reverence to several lineage masters. Before composing treatises, Patrul Rinpoche actually had many, many teachers. But here he pays special homage with deep respect and admiration to these particularly important masters. Therefore, those who have even a modest understanding of Tibetan history and Buddhist teachings should know about the important works they left behind for future generations and the enlightened disciples they pass their teachings on to. Their contributions to the entirety of Buddhism and humanity can truly be said to be immense. There should be some people with some historical knowledge. Sometimes I feel that in schools nowadays there is basically a kind of their way of studying is like this. In such and such year AD, this person was born, and then in such and such year AD, this person passed away. How many treatises did he write? When introducing a person, this is generally the academic research approach. I've noticed that some people approach the biographies of masters entirely from this angle, considering age, the era, and the political background, and apart from the more tangible things this person did, the intangible blessings and aspects of enlightenment. Nowadays, there are few phenomena people study or judge. Therefore, as practicing Buddhists, we should also note some external historical facts and estimate when a person was born. This is something we should know. But the most crucial thing is that we truly seek inner realization deeply. This point for everyone, especially for those who practice the Dharma, I personally think this is very important indeed. Next, let's now talk about the comprehensive summary of the whole article in detail. Great Perfection Preliminary Practices is also briefly introduced here. The treatise on the omniscient lineage of the complete teachings, the essential instructions for instantaneous Buddhahood, the common and uncommon outer, and the branch teachings and the swift path to rebirth practice. What exactly does this Great Perfection text in its entirety seek to thoroughly expound and explain. In fact, this guiding text has already explained everything in a manner that is both complete and thorough, ensuring that all important points, the essence of Shakyamuni Buddha's teachings, the 84,000 Dharma doors, this essence, in fact, especially when viewed from the perspective of combining theory and actual practice, is precisely what Venerable Longchen Rabjam of Tibetan Buddhism explains in the Great Chariot commentary on resting in the nature of mind, and what Venerable Jigme Lingpa teaches in the Treasury of Precious Qualities. These two treatises provide a very complete explanation. Therefore, here in the omniscient lineage, these two treatises passed down by the two omniscient masters, since Venerable Longchen Rabjam's resting in the nature of mind, the great perfection, has been studied by many Dharma friends and was highly praised by Khenpo Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche before we gave teachings on it. And it's in Golden Key of Pith Instructions. All the teachings of the Tathagata schools are perfectly complete. Such excellent explanations have never appeared before. The essence of the teachings from all the schools and traditions of the Tathagata is completely and flawlessly contained within this treatise. Such an excellent exposition is absolutely unprecedented in the entire history of humanity, without any parallel or comparison. He also said the 9 vehicles of Buddhism are all here. 9 vehicles of Buddha teachings are entirely gathered within resting in the nature of mind. Therefore, such a resting in the nature of mind, I myself have sometimes roughly translated, and after reading the Chinese version, I feel great joy in my heart. But I don't know, maybe from our heavy karma, generally speaking, although the content is indeed extremely sublime, and these treatises, in fact, possess blessings, not many people necessarily read them. On the other hand, various worldly treatises and theories created by conceptual elaboration, many people treat it as the most incredibly precious book. Such phenomena are endlessly recurring in the degenerate age. The treatises passed down by Venerable Longchen Rabjam and Venerable Jigme Lingpa are the most profound. However, all these treatises are here distilled into essential, fundamental, core and pith instructions. It can also be said that the essence of the pith instructions is all gathered together here. Dzogchen practice guidance is the very essence of all the Buddha's teachings, the general outline of all Dharma. By relying on it, one can attain perfect enlightenment in this life. It is an exceptionally supreme and skillful method, one could say, that enables us to achieve the state of Buddhahood, or complete enlightenment, within the span of this one brief and precious human life, a rare and extraordinary opportunity to reach awakening in such a short lifetime. These are extremely precious teachings, so everyone should not think that just because this Dharma is often, in fact, called preliminary practices, the preliminary practices are not necessarily very special and so on. There's no need to think like that. Indeed, this Dharma can be considered both the main practice and the preliminary practice. Therefore, all of the complete instructions are fully contained here in this document. The entire treatise is, in summary, summarized and divided into 3 parts. The common preliminaries, the uncommon preliminaries, and the practice of rebirth in the Pure Land. These are the 3 divisions. Moving forward together is common plus. The common and important outer preliminaries carefully discuss in detail the rarity of human birth, the impermanence of life, the law of karma, and the many sufferings of samsara. After that, it talks about relying on a qualified teacher and the qualities of liberation. 6 aspects. The uncommon inner preliminaries thoughtfully expound on the very foundation of all Dharma taking refuge. The bodhicitta benefiting all beings, the Vajrasattva practice for purifying negative karma, the mandala offering for accumulating merit, and Guru Yoga for merging the blessings into one's own mind. After that comes the pith instructions, which means, in essence, the main practice, the pith instructions of the unsurpassed secret teachings, are perfected through relying on the 3 methods of attaining rebirth. So the entire content of this teaching can be said to consist of these several layers, each contributing in its own way to the overall understanding and interpretation of the message. Patrul Rinpoche, through the teachings of his own guru and the treatises of lineage masters, as well as his own wisdom, has left us, the later generations, the words of my perfect teacher, which is as precious as a wish-fulfilling jewel. This is mainly the overall content and means this: if we can comprehend these teachings, we can only be truly considered highly qualified Buddhists when we have sincerely embraced and practiced the teachings of Buddhism in our daily lives, consistently showing. Therefore, in Tibetan Buddhism, everyone believes that as long as one studies the Dharma, everyone must study the preliminary practices of Dzogchen, whether this is regarded as a tradition or simply a saying. In many Han majority cities, this view is also quite common, actually. I think this is excellent, and I hope that all the Dharma friends present here, as well as the Buddhist friends who have formed a Dharma connection this time, will continue to pass this on in the future, so that everyone can truly understand the fundamental teachings of Buddhism. If we can master the preliminary practices of Dzogchen, it can be said that within the wider Buddhist community, you would at the very least be someone who truly understands the basic principles of Buddhism. Otherwise, nowadays, in today's world, many people on the surface claim to have taken refuge in Buddhism, or even to be studying Vajrayana Buddhism, and some even claim to have attained realization, supernatural powers, abilities. But in fact, I don't even understand some basic legal principles. That is truly laughable. This is extremely ridiculous. Therefore, there is no need for us to deceive ourselves or others. If you deceive, don't use Buddhism. Nowadays, there are countless ways and means of deception in the world. Ox hairs too many. Since we have obtained this rare human life, and in this lifetime have taken refuge in Buddhism through the guidance of a qualified teacher, we should be upright in character and study and practice in accordance with the proper principles and methods. If we practice and study correctly and properly, then even as ordinary people, relying on our own wisdom indeed, not to mention Buddhist teachings, even some worldly knowledge would be impossible for us to acquire without a teacher. Therefore, we must rely on scriptures and teachers endowed with blessings to guide us. In the end, our own mental continuum will become more gentle and disciplined. Once the afflictions in our mind stream are subdued, we will gradually gain the ability to truly benefit sentient beings. Next, I will briefly discuss the author's words of aspiration, clear and easy to understand yet rare in meaning. The flawless oral instructions of the incomparable Guru are explained here according to my firm understanding. May the Guru and the Yidam bless my mind stream. This text, A Guide to the Preliminary Practices of Dzogchen, is, from a literary perspective, actually very simple and extremely easy to understand. There is truly nothing at all that is difficult to grasp or comprehend. It does not use ornate or elaborate language, but rather clearly and simply explains the ideas in a straightforward manner, the entire sequence of practice in very plain and straightforward terms. Therefore, in Tibet, generally speaking, even young monks who have just entered the Buddhist path, he also basically understood to a certain extent the overall content of moving forward. For those wise individuals who have studied and contemplated for many years, they also find the content within to be extremely profound. There are some unclear passages. So from a textual perspective, the preliminary practices seem very simple, but its content and meaning are in fact extremely deep and profoundly significant. Even some Geshes and Dharma teachers and other wise long-time students also find it quite difficult to accurately interpret certain passages just from the text alone. In fact, the more one contemplates its meaning, the more profound it becomes. This is the feeling one gets. Therefore, this is extremely rare and precious. It is a teaching that possesses the unique qualities of the sacred Vajra speech. Actually, this teaching was not something that Patrul Rinpoche just simply made up on his own, all by himself, without any help from others. He wrote it following the instructions of his root lineage masters. How Venerable Jelaya taught him, he recorded word by word without missing a syllable. In the later verses, Patrul Rinpoche also says, originally I was in fact very well versed and deeply knowledgeable in worldly poetics. Also quite good at skillfully drawing beautiful detailed pictures, often accompanied by poetic lyrical rhymes. In other words, he was also highly proficient in the art of poetry. However, these are not the extraordinary oral instructions of my kind root teacher. Therefore, I have not mixed in any words of my own conceptual elaboration here, but have accurately written down my teacher's pith instructions. Because these pith instructions from my teacher, he had already listened to them at least 25 times, over and over again, repeatedly. Some people in the world, preliminary practices of Dzogchen, won't listen 25 times. Some heard few times. They think, I get this, why listen again? We discuss Dzogchen preliminary. Some people might think this is unreasonable. But in reality, maybe you can read through the words, but you haven't truly understood the content. In 2002, when I was at Minnan Buddhist College in Xiamen, I met a professor from Jiamen University. By chance, we also talked a lot about Buddhism and some worldly matters. We discussed people's explorations, the differences between the field of physics, the principles of quantum mechanics, and Buddhism. We talked for a long time, but at that time I had just... The translation of the widespread transmission of Sakyamuni Buddha was completed then. Then when we discussed Buddhism, he said, I am currently reading the Guidance on the Dzogchen Preliminary Practices. I remember that Patrul Rinpoche, even someone as wise as him, needed to listen to it 25 times. For people like us, it's even more so. I've only read it 5 or 6 times. But that's not enough. Every year I vow to keep reading it. After all these years, I don't know. If I had his phone number, I'd maybe ask whether he still reads it every year. Indeed, some people are certainly truly wise. University professors often have some arrogance. But even they feel that the more they read, the more interesting it becomes, and the more sense it makes. Wise people are... those without wisdom will read it just once, then set the Dharma text aside, and eventually, perhaps inevitably, give up on it. They might never look at it again. This does happen. So we should carefully approach the Dharma teachings with an insatiable attitude and keep studying. The great masters and teachers of the past were not like, I've listened to a teaching once, so that's enough. But it wasn't like that at all. People now, some time ago, said, I've already studied the way of the bodhisattva, and also studied Nagarjuna's letter to a friend, so that should be enough. Should I study preliminary practices? Am I studying and contemplating too much? There's really no need to worry about that. I once read the biography of Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo. He has carefully listened to more than 700 letters over his lifetime. In such a short lifetime, I was truly astonished. Over 700 volumes, really. Looking at us here, let alone 700 volumes. Do we even have 70? Not to mention 70 volume shave. We even received 7 authentic books. Some people, after just starting to study the way of the Bodhisattva or 1 or 2 treatises, feel satisfied. So when studying the Dharma, we should have a mind that is never content. A thirst for the Dharma, a strong yearning for the teachings. Some things in life are truly valuable and should not be given up so easily, because persistence and effort can often make a real difference in overcoming challenges. If it's simply about worldly pleasures, having one house is enough for me. In this short life, what's the point of building another big house? We should let our desire for worldly things decrease and our desire for the Dharma increase. Listening to one book isn't enough. I'll listen to another. If I got these teachings, I need them again. 500k prelims also not enough. Doing again twice isn't enough 3 times. 3 isn't enough 4. When I look at the previous masters regarding the 500 zero preliminaries, there was once a Dharma teacher who, when giving teachings, said this: 500 zero preliminaries are simple, can finish them a few days. Big deal? Count? When practicing the 4 common preliminaries, you must spend time on them. He felt spending time on the 500 zero preliminaries was extremely insignificant and very brief, but a large amount of time should be devoted to the common preliminaries. So when you put it this way, many people do 100 zero full prostrations, and some people really think this is a huge undertaking. We lack mental strength. If we spend all of our time and energy on things like greed, anger, and ignorance, no matter how much we spend, we'll never feel satisfied. So We must truly and fully understand this important principle. Here gives the pith instructions of the peerless guru. Khenpo Rinpoche reached his own firm understanding. The Dharma insights he personally attained are extremely precious. Therefore, he faithfully and accurately recorded them in writing. All he got by his guru, all his experiences, realizations, and pith instructions, each of these important moments and insights, she took care to write down in words, making sure to record them clearly and thoughtfully. As mentioned, one of Jigme Phuntsok's heart disciples was from Batang. He used to be an unknown little monk. For more than 10 years, he basically recorded everything the Dharma King said, almost every single word, with casual conversations and jokes, and even criticisms, including those specifically directed at his disciples. He carefully wrote all of it down. Last year, 3 years after the Jigme Phuntsok passed away, he has just recently printed this book. After it was published, everyone felt it was very rare and precious. When the Guru was still alive, many of his words didn't seem significant. The Guru would definitely say this every day, criticize that, and talk about various matters. But after the Guru left this world, even the most ordinary words he spoke, when we reflect on them slowly, in the process of contemplation, those of us who come after begin to feel that there must be profound hidden meanings within them. There are many seemingly ordinary words that ordinary people simply could not say. Soon we came to feel this way. Patrul Rinpoche on one hand. He also included the general teachings of his guru, Venerable Jilaya. At the same time, he quoted many teachings from great Indian and Tibetan masters. He wrote all of these out directly by hand, and in the process of writing, he also made personal aspirations and wishes. Root Guru and Lineage Guru, as well as to the Yidam deities, Dakinis, and Dharma protectors to bless his mind stream. He wished that this Dharma text in the future would be passed down from generation to generation in the world and truly benefit countless sentient beings without limit. It is precisely because of the prayers and aspirations he made at that time, just as I actually mentioned a couple of days ago, that even now in this world, the blessing power of the great perfection preliminary practices is inconceivable. After reading it, many people immediately experience a transformation in their mind stream in a short period of time. In simple language, but for many people, a single sentence from it can bring about a profound change in their entire life. Many Dharma friends have used this Dharma text. Issues of this life, and even all future lives, have all been resolved. One could say that within one's own mind stream, one now possesses some pure treasures of the noble ones. This too is due to the blessings of the lineage masters. I have always believed that in the process of studying the Dharma, praying to the root guru with devotion, and when the blessings of the gurus merge into our own mind stream, listening, contemplating, meditating, what kind of things, for example, are easier to do? If the guru's wisdom has not merged with our own mind, then many things we do will face difficulties. Therefore, we should in particular understand this here. At the same time, we also supplicate all the lineage masters mentioned above that the compassion and wisdom in their mind streams, as well as their various extraordinary abilities to benefit sentient beings, may all merge into the minds of ordinary beings with discriminating thoughts, so that we, just like these lineage masters, may in the future manifest truly extraordinary power in greatly benefiting all sentient beings. We only ask for this one thing. We do not ask the masters for blessings, nor do we seek any special blessings. I just want to live a little bit longer in this world right now, if that's possible. Some people ask the masters for special blessings so that in their old age, their pension won't be deducted at all, and they can receive the full amount. Nowadays, in many monasteries in the world, people ask for all kinds of blessings, but we do not seek these. We seek to benefit all sentient beings, even if it means being shattered to pieces or having a short life in this very existence. That's fine. What kind of situation it is, that's not important. In the process of wandering through samsara, we have transmigrated countless times over many ages. It happened before and it will happen again now. This is not important. But in every lifetime, we have always had the inner strength or truly courageous heart to selflessly benefit all sentient beings everywhere without exception. This is the aspiration of the Bodhisattva's courageous resolve. We must have this kind of blessing. We should always think this way, keeping this mindset in our hearts. These are the first few verses of the poem that we are going to talk about together. Right now, here in this video, I want to take this opportunity because everyone has been practicing the common preliminaries of Dzogchen. When practicing the common preliminaries, perhaps I should explain a bit to everyone that before each practice, it is important to note that everyone should have a clear understanding of this amendment is not only in the common practice, but should also be present in the uncommon preliminaries. So here, right now, I will take this opportunity to explain this clearly to each and every one of you. The main content here is based on the teachings of Patrul Rinpoche and Khenpo and Gakchung. To put it another way, I want to emphasize that I have personally made a consistent effort to practice in this way as much as I possibly could in the past, always trying to follow this approach whenever I had the opportunity. I think some people seem to feel that they don't know how to practice this. You should at least have a clear and general understanding of how to actually practice it in real situations. Once you truly and deeply understand, I sincerely hope that within your lifetime, in some meaningful way, perhaps you will practice according to these principles rather than like worldly people nowadays, who practice for the sake of physical health or to cure illnesses by doing some non-Buddhist exercises, such as gentle stretching, yoga, and so on. In some particular situations, there are also cases where some people choose to learn martial arts. These movements are actually very different from some of the instructions we practice here now. The difference is extremely great. Personally, after consistently relying on the guidance and unwavering support of my teacher, whenever I could remember, I would practice in this way. I sincerely hope that many Dharma friends will also continue to practice in this way for a long time. As for practice, it mainly refers to the time when we are in retreat, when we enter meditative absorption, or you could say, take our seat. At that time, there are several methods of practice that you must understand. I can summarize this practice essentially as a day's worth of cultivation in its entirety, completely. For example, if someone is in retreat from morning until night, the main point here is really about how to practice throughout the day. This is exactly what I want to explain in detail. Of course, during the day, depending on your own personal schedule and individual preferences, you can do one session or two sessions, or even 3, 4, 5, or 6 sessions, sometimes in total, for example. According to the instructions of different teachers, all of these are acceptable. If your time is especially limited, as is the case for some people living in cities nowadays, because of work and other reasons, you probably can't manage to do 6 sessions and so on. But if you practice one session in the morning or at night, and keep it up consistently, that's also fine. I know a classmate of mine, she holds a good position in a government department, but she doesn't have time during the day at night. For 6 or 7 years now, she has never missed her single daily session of practice. Actually, a person's faith is truly very important. If you have faith, you can make time and create the right environment for yourself. Even if you live in prison, it's still absolutely possible for you to do so. Great masters practiced even in prison, and later, in the end, attained the rainbow body. How much more for us? Some say, I don't have freedom. My family is terrible. Compared to prison, it's likely better. No matter how things are at home, in prison, the warden and many others may not support your practice. They have opportunity to practice. So I think compared to them, our situation is probably a bit better. No matter whether it's in the morning or even late at night, if you really can't find time during the day, you should at least be able to manage one session of practice. This includes some of the dedicated staff in our institute. I also hope that everyone can complete at least one session of the preliminary practices together. This is the very minimum, at least one session. The shorter session should be at least half an hour. If you can't even manage this, then perhaps you have already been reborn into a realm without leisure. It's like this. So I'll briefly talk about daily practice. Generally speaking, and to put it simply, in the Heart Essence tradition, it is understood that all the seasoned practitioners place great importance on practice and entering meditation. This is taken very seriously. Usually, practice is divided into morning practice, formal practice in the middle of the day, and evening practice before sleep, these three aspects. In the morning, when you wake up from a dream, you should think in your heart, all the Buddhas, bodhisattvas, and my own lineage gurus, through the sound of the Vajra bell and hand drum, have awakened me from the deep, restless, and afflicted sleep of delusion, a troubled state from which I could not escape. With this in mind, as soon as you wake up, each and every morning, right after you open your eyes, some people recite Lama Hien, the verse praying for the Guru's compassion. Or, as I mentioned before, if you would like, you can begin the process by reciting the Vajrasattva 100-syllable mantra, repeating it carefully a total of 21 times. Then, while still in bed, settle your mind for a moment. Reflect about your dreams last night, if they were good or bad. If you happen to have a particularly bad dream, gently reproach yourself. But if you had a truly good dream, then rejoice and sincerely dedicate the merit. After reciting the 100-syllable mantra, get up. You should, at the very least, prostrate 3 times, if not more, at a minimum at least. After prostrating, wash your face, brush your teeth, use the restroom, and fetch water. Take care of any other necessary and important tasks in this way, as needed, as appropriate, and as required. Once finished, begin to clean the shrine room, offer water, and offer incense. After you have carefully finished all these tasks in front of the Buddha statue, and completely, with this, we have now successfully completed the preliminary section of our activities, which, to be specific, refers to the morning practice session. Start practice. I think formal practice can be divided into 3 parts: the preliminary, the main practice, and the concluding practice. The first of these is forward. By now, you have finished everything, including, of course, closing the door. In any case, you won't need to get up or do anything else in the middle. Once you have made all the preparations, you are ready to take your seat. For example, you take your seat in the morning and also in the late morning. When you begin your morning meditation, take a deep breath and allow yourself a gentle moment to slowly settle in. First, the practice is divided into the preliminary, the main, and the concluding stages. According to the records of Khenpo Ngagchung, the preliminary stage of this process is comprised of 3 important key points. These 3 points, this is discussed in the preliminary practice notes. Regarding this aspect of practice, basically, if I remember correctly, the memo starts discussing this on page 143. During practice, the preliminary stage must include 3 key points. The first, very important key point is the posture of the body, which is how you position yourself. In our usual practice, we also mention the 7-point posture of Vajrayana, which everyone knows. The first point is to sit in the full lotus position, or the half lotus position is also acceptable. Everyone should be able to sit comfortably in the lotus position. This posture is actually quite important. Now, the second point is to slowly and mindfully form the meditation mudra with both of your hands. When forming meditation mudra, right hand on top, left hand underneath. To perform this hand mudra, gently bring your 2 thumbs together so that their tips are touching. Place your joined thumbs just below your navel, allowing your hands to rest comfortably in this. The third point is to keep the entire spine upright, making sure to maintain this position at all times. Remember, it should not be bent or slouched at all under any circumstances whatsoever, nor should you ever lean backward, not even just a little bit. The spine must be kept straight at all times. In some instructions from certain past practices, it is said that if the body is upright, the channels are straight. If the channels are straight, the mind is straight. If the mind is straight, aspects of awareness, the content you are visualizing can manifest in reality. This is about keeping the spine upright. The fourth point, the neck should tilt slightly forward. Ideally, it should not lean backward at all, nor should it incline or tilt in any way to either side. It should be just slightly inclined forward rather than completely upright. This is the fourth important point to keep in mind. The fifth point, the shoulders and arms should be drawn back or relaxed. The shoulders should not be pressed against the chest or drawn inward. This posture is wrong. Fifth point. The sixth point, both eyes should gaze directly at the tip of the nose. The eyes should not be opened too wide. Just gently gaze at the tip of the nose. The seventh point, the tongue should gently and firmly touch the upper palate, which is the roof of your mouth. The seventh point refers to proper tongue placement. These are the 7-point postures of Vairochana. As I mentioned earlier, when you are just about to take your seat, for example, first sit on a comfortable cushion and assume the 7-point posture of Vairocana. Let your mind completely settle and sit for a short while. These are simply the key points for the body. The second step is, without a doubt, the most important and crucial point of the entire speech. Generally speaking, in most cases, this refers to recitation or chanting with the mouth. However, here it is related to breathing. In the context of our discussions here, what we are most often referring to is the process of expelling the breath from the body, which means when expelling breath, we often refer to expelling the 9 stale breaths. It should be said like this, I think, at this particular point in time. Generally, the right hand forms the Vajra fist. The thumb is inside and the other fingers are outside, making a fist like this. Then gently and firmly press your right hand against the root of the thigh. There is specifically an artery at the root of the thigh, a pulsating artery known as the femoral artery. Press on root of thigh. Then with the left hand form the 3-pronged Vajra mudra, extend the index finger and make a fist with the other fingers. Next, press the left nostril and exhale 3 times through the right nostril. While exhaling 3 times, visualize in your mind, in a calm and relaxed manner, from beginningless time, negative karma by you and all beings, especially those that are created mainly or primarily out of strong feelings of anger, frustration, or irritation, is slowly and gently expelled outward in the form of thick white vapor and is gently dispersed. This is exhaling slowly 3 times from the right side. Then, with the left hand forming a Vajra fist, once again gently and carefully press down. On the root area at the very top of the thigh, sit comfortably with your back straight. Gently bring your right hand up and use your right thumb to softly press your right nostril closed. With your right nostril closed, exhale slowly and steadily through your left nostril. Repeat this exhalation 3 times, keeping your breath calm and even each time. At that time, visualize in your mind that from beginningless time, all sentient beings, including yourself, all the negative karma created mainly out of attachment, is expelled completely in the form of red vapor. Repeat this exhalation slowly and mindfully 3 times. After that, form Vajra fists with both hands and press them at the roots of the thighs. At this moment, gently exhale 3 times simultaneously through both nostrils. While exhaling 3 times, visualize in your mind that all sentient beings, including yourself since beginningless time, have created all negative karma out of ignorance, and that it is expelled in the form of black vapor. This is called expelling the impure breath 9 times. After this, in some practice guides, you begin to recite Om Aham. There are also the Tibetan vowel mantra, consonant mantra, and the dependent origination mantra. If you can recite them, that's best. If you cannot, then just recite Om Aham a few times. Because the 3 Vajras of all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas gradually merge into your mind. When you speak with sincerity and kindness, your words gain a special quality and your speech becomes blessed. On the surface, this expelling of impure breath seems like ordinary yoga. But in reality, as we ourselves know, all the stains of greed, anger, and ignorance within our own mind stream are all expelled through this method of practice. It's just like when we want to eat. We first wash the bowl until it is completely clean. Or when you want to pour water, you ensure the bucket is clean. Then the water you pour inside can also be used safely. So before you even begin the visualization, you should thoroughly expel the greed, anger, and ignorance in your own mind stream by means of this mindful breath practice. This is indeed extremely necessary. This is called the essential point of speech, the key point of speech practice. Next, let's talk about the central point of the mind, which can be divided into 2 aspects. One is motivation, which was already discussed earlier. Specifically, you should think deep inside your heart with what kind of motivation am I practicing the common preliminaries this time? Examine yourself. And if your motivation is neutral, transform it into a virtuous intention. If my motivation is unwholesome, completely set it asidedo, not allow such thoughts to arise. If it is a virtuous intention, there are two types, worldly and transcendent. Worldly virtuous intentions also have two kinds, one called the mind seeking protection from fear. What is seeking protection from fear? It means I am afraid of enemies, afraid of illness, afraid of lower realms. I am especially fearful myself. It is in order to escape from this kind of fear that one begins to practice. Some people sometimes think I am seriously ill. They practice in hopes of freeing themselves from illness. This is the mind of seeking protection from fear. There is another kind of mind called the mind of virtuous aspiration. May I be wealthy, healthy, and beautiful. May my work go smoothly, or may I obtain blessings as a human or celestial being in the future, and so on, to attain wonderful results in this life and future lives. Practicing with goals is called practice of virtuous aspirations. In fact, this is unreasonable and should be abandoned. Among wholesome minds, these two types of mind should be given up. Among supramundane minds, there is a type of mind similar to that of Shravakas and Pratika Buddhas, seeking liberation from beginningless samsara. But even this kind of mind should be abandoned here. Then the mind of the Great Vehicle Path is, just as we discussed earlier, for benefit of sentient beings, limitless as sky. So they may attain perfect, complete enlightenment. This kind of bodhicitta is the mind that must be generated before engaging in practice. This is the first essential point of mind, generating bodhicitta, eliminating worldly and unwholesome intentions. When genuine bodhicitta arises, this is called generating the intention. The second essential point of mind is supplication. When making supplications, in this context, in the space directly in front of yourself, about 1 foot above the ground, just visualize your guru seated on a 1,000-petaled lotus in a lion throne. When visualizing, if your faith in your guru is very strong, then whether your guru is a monastic or a layperson, you can visualize your guru's appearance exactly as they are. As in the guru yoga of the Dharma King wish-fulfilling jewel, you can visualize your guru, or you can visualize your guru as Avalokiteshvara, Shakyamuni Buddha, Guru Rinpoche, or other such forms such as these. Then, in front of your guru, begin to pray with single-pointed devotion. This is extremely important. Generally speaking, after generating bodhicitta, we practice guru yoga. Think that the wisdom essence of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions. Root Guru, wish-fulfilling jewel, please remember me and bless me, most compassionate, loving, wise, and gentle one, so that my mind merges with the Dharma, and may my Dharma practice be truly, completely, and perfectly accomplished in every possible way and manner. May all my deluded and discursive thoughts be completely dispelled, and may I attain supreme realization. Especially now, as I am practicing, if you are practicing the preciousness of human rebirth, may I see the preciousness of human rebirth as a new guru. It must gradually come into existence within my own continuum. If I am practicing, may the wisdom of impermanence as you, my guru, have realized, quickly arise within my mind stream right here in this session, at this very moment, and made arise in my continuum in a powerful and intense way. With truly and sincerely incomparable devotion, I steadfastly continue to pray in this way each and every single day without fail. During the process of supplication, we generally recite the Guru's supplication prayer. Now, when everyone is prostrating, you are required to recite the supplication prayer. Generally, it is recited 21 times or 100 times, continuously praying in this way. With strong faith, join your palms together, visualize the Guru in front of you, and recite the prayer before him continuously. After you have finished the recitation, you should visualize the Guru dissolving completely into radiant light, and then imagine that this brilliant light gradually merges and blends seamlessly into your own body, becoming one with you. The Guru's wisdom and your own mind become inseparable, indistinguishable from one another. Simply abide in this state. Do not follow past discursive thoughts, nor cling to the present state of mind. Do not anticipate or invite in any way whatsoever any future discursive events either at all. Do not cling to any abide in this state. This is what is called the preliminary practice of the essential point of mind. Everyone should remember body, speech, and mind preliminaries. But if we look at our current situation right now, people prostrate. And if prostration is used as a session, I believe Guru Yoga itself is originally a preliminary practice. If you treat it as the main practice and keep prostrating in this way, visualizing the guru in front of you and continuously prostrating before him, then at the end, when you dedicate the merit, dedicate it as usual. If you do not take guru yoga as your main practice in your daily routine, and you are practicing the common preliminaries, guru yoga is already complete. After finishing that, you begin the main practice. What's the main practice? Like we discussed the 8 freedoms from unfavorable conditions. Then you begin to contemplate. Among the 8 freedoms, I am truly fortunate in this life not to have been reborn in the hell realms or as a hungry ghost, and you start practicing in this way. Or, as we are going to discuss today, the 10 endowments, you reflect on each one. I am truly fortunate to have obtained a human body and so on, practicing in this manner. This is the main practice, and you continue like this until the completion of bodhicitta. You practice everything, really, in this particular way up to that point. Khenpo Ngagchung's pith instructions. There is someone called Sangye Dorje in Nepal. He is over 80 years old and a disciple of Khenpo Ngagchung. In some of his compilations, it is mentioned from the practice of the rarity of human birth up to generating bodhicitta. Before entering those practices, one needs to practice for a total of 146 days. And in addition, combine it with the instructions from the Resting the Mind in the Great Perfection guidance text. For most people, at the very least, the common 4 preliminary practices should be done for 100 days. This is lineage of many masters. So for myself, it's not something I just thought of today. Mind at Rest in the Great Perfection and Great Perfection Preliminary Practice Guide. I have always valued these teachings. Of course, some people have benefited from them, while others have not gained much benefit. There are those who haven't paid attention, but regardless of situation, 10 years ago when I was here teaching everyone, well, back then, 3 Excellences Guide and Preliminaries, same then, same now. I hope in our lifetime, even though we practice many different things, meeting one teacher, meeting another person, following, still difficult. Sometimes when we encounter non-Buddhist paths, we even practice their yogas at times. There are schools, and studying them all never ends. So I hope that we always maintain our basic practice, practicing from morning until night. This is what I do. But as for you, some will listen, some may not. So I hope that in the future we can correct the behavior in this way. After you finish the main practice, if you are reflecting on the value of life, whether you practice for an hour or 2 hours or half an hour, once you have finished, you should begin the dedication of merit. Dedication, we discussed this before. How do Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and I dedicate? Or if you prefer, you can also dedicate while mindfully abiding in a state of non-referential equanimity. We have discussed all these dedication methods. Then you recite, say, if you don't have time, recite the courageous wisdom of Manjushri. Use some verses to make the dedication. This is called the concluding practice. Preliminary, main practice, concluding practice, post-practice. This is the method. What I just mentioned earlier, the third point is specifically about the time when you go to bed at night. At night, when you are about to sleep because of the day's practice, if you did 6 or 4, once you finish in the evening, you put away the offerings to the Dharma protectors and all the various offerings. When you are about to go to sleep, first, prostrate 3 times. After prostrating 3 times, lie in bed and reflect, how was my practice overall throughout the day? If your practice was good, then rejoice and dedicate the merit to all sentient beings. If you did not do well during the day, then also reproach and criticize yourself. You think deeply. I receive many pith instructions from Guru. Others practice so successfully every day. So why am I doing so poorly? I really am hopeless. You should treat yourself just as Khenpo Ngagchung suggested. Pinch your own flesh to punish yourself and severely scold yourself. Then after prostrating 3 times, just as was mentioned earlier in the instructions, you can then go to sleep for the night. Of course, some people practice not lying down at night for sleep, which is also a form of practice. For those who do sleep, as mentioned before, you should sleep in the lion's posture. At this time, according to the instructions of some masters from the heart essence tradition, as was carefully explained, now visualize the Guru transforming into radiant light and gently merging into the 4-petaled lotus of your heart. The Guru radiates light, and you fall asleep within boundless luminosity. You can see the Guru radiating light, and the entire world of appearances and beings merges into yourself, and you merge into the Guru. The Guru becomes light and joins the Dharma realm. Within this state of non-referential awareness, you enter luminous dream yoga. If you haven't practiced the luminous dream, then simply abide in this state free from attachment. In fact, many senior masters and seasoned practitioners, when they wake up, recite the 100-syllable mantra or pray to the Guru. Their entire day is spent mindful during walking, standing, sitting, and lying down. They pray to Buddhas. In this kind of state, even when preparing to go to sleep at night, they gently and continuously recite Lama Khieno and gradually drift off to sleep. Ideally sleep with the Guru's wisdom, not falling asleep in a state of non-dualism. Many seasoned practitioners do this, but nowadays many practitioners probably do not practice in this way. When they get up in the morning, many of their actions are quite often rather pitiable. In fact, they are sometimes worthy of pity and sympathy. They are distracted all day long, and at night when they go to bed, it's as if a stone is thrown onto the bed. They sleep in a daze, just like Jubaji. Every day is spent in a confused state. A few decades of life pass by like this, but in fact, this is not good at all. A true and dedicated practitioner in their daily conduct should consistently maintain the same kind of mindfulness as much as possible throughout the entire day. We also sincerely hope that by praying to the Guru and the three jewels, we can gain some benefit. The omniscient Longchen Rabjam also said, if we do not truly practice in reality, then even if we can recite or have mastered thousands of scriptures and treatises, it will be of no help at the time of death. So we must actually practice. Therefore, we should strive to practice while we study as much as possible. All right, let's stop here.
Om